Let's do it.
Let's do it. Welcome to On the Chain. This is Jeff here with co-host Chip. What's going on, Chip? What is going on, everyone out there in the YouTube, X, and Rumble space? That's how it goes. That's how we do it. The future of XRP, Chip, is Flare. We're actually going to be giving a Flare update today.
Is it?
It is. It is. It really is. The SEC's secret agenda has finally been revealed, and we're going to talk about that. And then the danger of the EU digital ID lurks in the background for all those of you over the EU, and the CBDC, the central bank digital currency. Beware.
I have a problem with that first word, central.
Central.
Centralized, not good, especially when it comes
What's
to
up,
anything
Laura?
financial related. So
That's right.
anyway, here we go. You guys ready to go? Let's do this. Let's go,
do
guys.
Welcome to On the Chain.
Welcome to On the Chain. Everybody drop in the comments section where you guys are from, whether you're on Rumble. We'll monitor over on Rumble. We'll see maybe one viewer on Twitch. We'll monitor that as well. But that comes in here so we get to see it. So if you want to make a comment, we'll be able to definitely show you how it works, man. So it's all great. It's all keen, great. So
it's all good stuff. You got some really cool things teed up for today. We're going to dive into some Stu Alderati, right? Stu Alderati.
We're going to jump into some Stu Alderati. Stu Alderati's on a tear. That's general counsel for Ripple. He's been on a tear lately, man. He is like taking no prisoners, man. It's like a full-on assault. It's like you wouldn't even know that there's still ongoing litigation between the SEC and Ripple, the way you see some of this stuff. But Stu put this tweet out. He said, a troubling pattern emerges. And of course, he's talking about the SEC, but a court finds the SEC demonstrated hypocrisy by making inconsistent arguments to the court and not acting out of a faithful allegiance to the law. And this was during the SEC v. Ripple. This happened in July 12th of 22. When I was just like shocked by that, Jeff. I was like, the court was telling the SEC, you don't have faithful allegiance to the law, which is a nice way to say you're full of shit. I mean, basically, right? It's a nice way to say you're lying, you're full of crap. I mean, anything all sort of like fits in there. Want to do a shout out to Brian, who's coming in from Thailand. Brian, what's going on? He's also a Badass Yeti former winner as well. So he's good to see you coming in from Thailand, which is late over there, I would imagine. Are they 11 hours ahead, 10 hours? They're out there.
Man, we got people switching to Rumble in mass over here. And Mike, Davey, One Rough Rican, Mel V over here on the Rumble chat. So
that's very good too. We got Barbie Taylor coming in over here from the West Coast. Very cool. Very happy to see that. Let's see who else is coming in today. Where are you guys coming in from? Finally catch the show. Look at that. Laurel says she's finally going to catch the show live today. Yes. Well, you can always watch the rewatch, but it's always fun to be able to chat with everybody. Of course, Jim D, loyal as can be, is in here, no doubt. Karma Carmichael, another OG, in the OTC fam. Really appreciate you being here, man. Living the dream in the future, 12 hours. Nice. 8 p.m. Okay, good. So turns out we are on at 8 p.m., Jeff. 8 p.m.
That's right. We are at 8 p.m. 8 a.m., 8 p.m.
8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Beautiful.
It works out depending on where you are. Laurel's over in the Bahamas. Joe is over in Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico, Joe, buddy. Okay, so it's funny because the next part of this is like the court agrees that the SEC defaulted on its duty to respond in good faith to Coinbase petition for crypto rulemaking. And this is regarding the Coinbase suit, which happened a little bit earlier, 6/6 of 23. Court finds that the SEC's inconsistent treatment of similar products is arbitrary and capricious. I remember this one. The arbitrary and capricious, this is Grayscale versus the SEC.
Say that 10 times fast. Arbitrary and capricious.
Capricious, Jeff.
Capricious. Like the judicial system.
Capricious. It's capricious, man. That's a word you use in every day.
I try to get it in every conversation.
That's so capricious, man. That's very capricious of you. It's like, there you go. So the court, I love that. It was arbitrary and capricious, another way to say you're full of shit again. Court orders the SEC to show why it should not be sanctioned for making false and leading representations to the court. This is the SEC versus Deadbox. And this just happened, right? So this just happened a couple of days ago. But look at that, Jeff. This is incredible. Making false and misleading representations to the court. Now, it's funny
Why?
because now, if you're not a government agency and you're going on about this, but like, why does the court even tolerate the SEC, right? You've seen attorneys, bad attorneys, but you've seen attorneys, whether it's on one of these silly law shows or if like in real life, they usually get sanctioned or something. Like something happens to them, right? But not if you're the SEC. It's just like, well, you can just they can say you just made false and misleading representations. It's over. That's it. I mean, another way, nice way of saying you lied.
Yeah, it's a real nice, easy way. You're making false statements and you're misleading the court
because they're lies. Okay,
because
so you've lied to the court
because they're lies. They're mistruths.
Now the court is way too nice. I mean, let's be honest. Okay, you misspoke. There's like
You
all these
Gary, you misspoke again.
Crypto advisor wants to know when Patrick McHenry is going to issue a subpoena. So all these harsh letters, Gary, we really want you to turn over these dates to the committee. Gary, we're serious. Reminds me of the Obama red line. Remember the red line? This is the red line. I've drawn it in the sand. Don't cross it.
Don't cross it.
And what did they do? They crossed it. They crossed it. They kept moving the red line. Cross it again. Cross it again.
Red line. Here's the next.
When you do that, right? And Jeff, when you do something like that, you're done. Right? It's just like you're full of shit. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like you're done. Nothing's gonna happen. I mean, the red line, right? So then we had this one too.
You can only get punched in the nose so many times before you decide that, hey, you know what? I don't think I like this anymore.
Well, that sounds like that. I mean, a lot of people come back for more punches, more throat punches. So this one, he said, that today's Wall Street Journal, the Supreme Court has repeatedly ruled against the SEC in recent years. The SEC is anything but infallible. It is bloated, broken, and beleaguered. There's another great word for you.
Bloated.
It's beleaguered. Bloated.
BBBs.
BBB. Broken, bloated, and beleaguered. Say that 3 times. Say that once, Jeff. See if you can say that once. Fast.
Very
say
capricious.
It fast. Very capricious. Can you say that 3 times quick?
Bloated, broken, and beleaguered.
No, it was a little slow. I was hoping for a little speed there. Don't be intimidated when they come. Now, see, the thing is, they say, like, don't be intimidated when they come knocking. Okay, great. Fair enough. The problem here is that if you don't have a war chest of $150 million or $200 million,
you're fucked.
Then they're just gonna squeeze you. Right, Jeff? Am I wrong there? It's like
myself. Yeah, it's true.
So it said subjected SEC proceedings can seek to enjoin or block those proceedings by suing in a federal district court and raising constitutional arguments there. Well, great. So what if you can't stand up to the SEC? And we saw this happen with Jeremy Kaufman, former CEO, I should say, of Library, who basically got squeezed, right? He didn't, they came after him. It was a ridiculous thing. We had a judge that was like 102 years old, doesn't understand the space at all, and got a crappy reading. Part of it was in Connecticut. How do you think it's going to go? I mean, it's like New York, Connecticut, the whole Northeast should just be flushed down the toilet. It's an absolute disgrace.
It's so irrelevant now.
Right? It's so irrelevant. Stu put this picture out. He says, when they roll the credits to the movie, I hope they show this picture. And this is the picture of them on stage. Now, it's funny because I haven't seen this anywhere, but he's sitting right next to, that's Paul Grewal. That's the general counsel of Coinbase.
Yep.
Along with Craig Salm, and Craig is chief legal officer at Grayscale. So there you got in this stage, you got Grayscale, you have Ripple, and you have Coinbase, powerhouse, right?
That's all the powerhouse of the industry right there.
Right, and that's why I like now the thing is, if anybody can find this session, I heard about it. I heard they were speaking at the policy summit, but again, gonna have to find this session because we'll have to pull some sound clips from this because I got to. But I love how he just says when the credits roll, this is the photo that I want to show. Right, the 3 behemoths going up against the SEC. Right, so all 3 of them being sued actively. Coinbase being told, about the staking, and Coinbase is a public company. It's like you guys reviewed everything. When you're going public, Jeff, there's so much anxiety, and you got that timeline. You have to hire all the right legal counsel. It's so expensive to go public. And they went public, and then they got a knock on the door 2 years later. So it's very, very strange that this would absolutely be some weird of occurrence. So I'd love to find this too. This would be probably good to find. We got to look for.
That's really good, And then Gary's sitting backstage when that was all going on. He's watching from his basement or his
Jeff,
his living room somewhere.
He's become somewhat of a character, right? He's become somewhat of a
Caricature.
goofball. Character, as I said, caricature of a person who is can do anything right.
That's right. Do anything wrong. So over here in the Rumble chat, we got Juan I. Willie. He said they should have sanctioned the SEC in the Ripple case. And he said, all I hear is threats. Congress, oh, we're going to subpoena you. Court, we're going to sanction you. In my opinion, at least it sends out a message to other judges that the SEC is full of trickery. What do you think of that?
That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
It's spot on. It's like
spot on.
How many times do you have to say you're going to subpoena somebody? And just because you subpoena them doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get anything out of it, right? So this has happened time and time again. Other people in the Biden administration have been subpoenaed and are like,
whatever.
I don't care. Whatever. Like, what are you going to do to us? They do nothing. And there's a couple
they
tweets
protect themselves. It's so unfortunate. But yet, what did we see? Santos got the boot from Congress yesterday.
That's because the Republicans are the dumbest humans on the planet. Exactly why I had to get in an argument with somebody that's saying I'm not a Republican. I've been an independent for 25 plus years, and I can't stand the Republicans. They threw out the Santos for false and misleading statements, right? But meanwhile, you got the squad, anti-Semitic dirtbags over there, right? Saying anything they want. Oh, from the river to the sea. Oh, that's just a fun phrase. No, it's the destruction and death of every Jew in Israel. Come on. I mean, that's allowed to stand, right?
And then you have Sanchez. Man, Fetterman stepped up big on that one.
What's going on with Fetterman, Jeff? I want to know what's going on with Fetterman.
All of a sudden, man, the guy's getting smart again. I don't know.
All of a sudden, he got clarity. Like he was on The View. He was on The View and he was talking about, he says, we got a guy on our side that's a lot worse. And I was like, dude, what? What? Dude, what happened to John Fetterman? Who is this guy? I was like, John Fetterman got religion or something, but John Fetterman goes, well, yeah, we got Melendez. He goes, he's bad. He's not the, he's not a representative of New Jersey. He's a representative of Egypt. I'm like, what's going on with John Fetterman? John Fetterman better watch out. He better watch his back.
Well, I find it interesting because remember he's running. All of a sudden he had the stroke and knew nothing, right? He was just like, he was in a daze. He really should have been, he should have stepped down at that point. He's still shaky, but mentally he was like out of it. And you could tell he was completely out of it, but they totally took advantage of him at that moment. So now are his true colors coming out? Is this how he always was? As he comes out and is just hammering on all cylinders. It's what's interesting too, though, is that at the same time that you have Richie Torres has come out massive. Look how Richie Torres has been strong politically, or in terms of what's going on in crypto, in the crypto space. Richie Torres is very outspoken, and then all of a sudden Richie Torres is also very outspoken when it came to Israel, as you brought that up, and so all of a sudden you have some of these members on the blue team that you hear what they say, complete opposition to the current administration's wishy-washy approach to everything they do and the power vacuum they've created. Now all of a sudden you have Richie Torres and Fetterman stepping up as actual leaders in their party with actual opinions that resonate, at least they're thinking through with some logic, versus the rest of them that are embracing complete insanity, and just going for the next election cycle. And that's where you got to give those guys some credit and some respect, for what they're doing, which is outstanding. Let's save our economy and our future. That's what we got to do.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And so that was funny. Somebody actually put this piece out there. It was from CNBC. It was Brad Garlinghouse talking. It was a piece from 2008 about Brad Garlinghouse. But what's interesting about this is the story that follows, Garlinghouse going to AOL and former Yahoo executive. But let's roll this clip. But it's interesting. Listen to the story that follows it. And this is from, remember, 2008, right? Let me think. That's 15 years ago. So there we go.
AOL has hired former Yahoo executive Brad Garlinghouse to run the company's email group and beef up its presence in Silicon Valley. Garlinghouse might be best known for calling attention to major problems at Yahoo in a 2006 internal memo. That paper was referred to as the Peanut Butter Manifesto because it claimed the company had spread itself too thin. Since then, Yahoo has changed CEOs twice. Since leaving Yahoo last year, Garlinghouse has been an advisor at private equity firm Silver Lake Partners. And coming up, is it time to ditch the dollar? The United Nations calls for a new global currency. So could this herald the biggest overhaul of the world's monetary system since World War II?
That's interesting for a lot of reasons.
For a lot of reasons. I mean, this is 2008, and of course, the United Nations, which is a filthy, dirty operation, right? You've got some of the most egregious countries sitting on the security board, right? Like nations like Iran. I mean, it's just insane what's going on. Like the United Nations sound like a good idea,
yeah,
but it wasn't.
yeah,
It was a really bad idea, and even having it in New York is even worse idea. But it's the whole thing needs to be just
so great dismantled,
it
turned into a big ass parking lot.
Yeah, I just think it's right on the water there, right? So it's like right down the street from the one, what replaced the towers, the Freedom Tower there. It's right there. It's like dude, it's like major. Like, can you imagine the kind of condos they could build over there? They could build a whole sort of just get rid of it, just blow it up. It has to go.
Yeah,
and
but
then
this was really good though, Chip, with what Brad was saying. Bringing Brad Garlinghouse in, or not what he's saying, but it was just interesting the timing of all of that back in 2008,
right before.
And they're referencing two different things. I find it interesting also, as he talks about the Peanut Butter Manifesto, and then you have what was going on with Yahoo, moving over to AOL, two companies that are relatively irrelevant. I don't know, extinct today. I think they're still around. People still have AOL email addresses.
Well, I still look at the Yahoo, the financial.
Yahoo Finance is good.
I always thought it was one of the best things they had.
The rest of what they had was pretty much useless. But yeah, the Yahoo Finance is real. That platform is really, really good. And then the United Nations moving to a different currency. So this objective of abandoning the US dollar has been going on a really long time. The fact that the UN is behind it, and trying to disrupt the economic viability and stability of the US dollar, that they're, trying to create that chaos. So, and that's, there's a lot of problem inherent with that.
Democrats after Menendez because many times the votes against them. Yeah, that's part of that's. I still don't think this is the second time. The first time was a slam dunk, and somehow he stuck around, and that was 10 years ago.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So here's JM was over here on Rumble. Said Tucker had a great interview with Marjorie Taylor Greene last night. She nailed exactly what's wrong with the ruling class, and that would be
everything.
Everything's wrong with them. The fact that they're just out there, to maintain power, control power, get more power.
Well, the All In podcast had a really good one with Tucker too. A lot of stuff they talked about why he got let go from over there at Fox. And the funny thing is like they actually thought they were going to squeeze him out. They're like, we're gonna delete you. You're gone. But we're gonna have a gag order pretty much until the election's over. And he's like, screw that. So he comes back stronger than ever because his platform is bigger. I mean, on X, it's much bigger. And of course, we saw Elon Musk. We'll talk more about that tomorrow night. We can get into more of that. But he basically told the ruling class to go F yourself in so many words. And he said it directly to Bob Iger, who was sitting out there in the audience. I'm gonna be careful how we talk about things here. Yeah, I mean, so all these, so somebody like Walmart actually decided to leave X as an advertiser, but meanwhile, they have so much advertiser dollars over there on TikTok, the platform of every anti-Semitic person in the world to jump on, right? So that's part of the problem. And I mean, TikTok is just an infestation, and it's Chinese run. So if you look at TikTok over there in China, it's all educational. They teach you how to do stuff and all, but here it's just mentally ill people in the bottom feeders out there with propaganda. And now it's the Hamas supporters and everything else. So and on top of that, Amazon, you look over at Amazon, they got From the River to the Sea shirts. They got the pro Hamas shirts everywhere. Jeff, what happened to you? Just bailed out there. And everyone's like, nobody has a problem with that. Like everybody seems to be okay with that. But some company goes out to just sink X, formerly known as Twitter, by inferring that these these ads appear next to with these. Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
All right.
You know, a
You
little
worried look
glare.
on your. You had a worried look on your face. You're like, look up.
I was getting glare.
Oh, you're getting glare. Yeah, you don't want. Nobody wants glare. You got to undo the glare. So it's just like all these double standards exist everywhere, and that's one of the other issues is that you've got so many members of Congress that are compromised. Right? You get them in a compromised situation, you own them, and then from that point on, you dictate how they're going to vote. They go to the mics and they start screaming, "We're going to do this. We're going to do that." But not until they get the okay from the DS. Once the DS says it's okay, then they're able to do it. The problem is that the right side of it isn't on the same side as the DS. The DS side is is lockstep with what's going on. So that's where you have all that. But I wanted to play two clips back to back here. One of them here talks about central banks.
Yeah, that's from Thomas over there on Rumble. Trying to get these out as quick as possible, but he brought up a point here that the U.S. pays 25% of the UN's budget. Keep that in mind as we talk about the next topics that we're going to get into, including talking about the CBDCs and more. Think about what the U.S. covers financially on a global scale while we're being attacked from every direction.
Yeah, right. Every single direction, man. It's just incredible. So let's look at this first clip. Talk about central banks. Let me cue this one up a little bit. Let me think. Where is this? So this is nope. Okay, never mind. I thought I had something here. Some additional info. But let's just watch this.
People knew what central banks were and understood them very well. Everywhere a central bank went, there'll be wealth inequality, wild swings between economic booms and busts, and after each bust, those at the top of society mysteriously came out richer while everyone else got poorer. Europe was the running example of this at the time. The Federal Reserve was originally drafted as the Aldrich Bill, but when it came into Congress, they recognized Senator Aldrich's name and smelt a rat. The bankers needed better cover. They decided to send two millionaire friends to carry the bill to quell the suspicions of Congress and renamed it the Federal Reserve Act. Next, in a textbook lesson of deceit, the bankers set out to fool the American people through disinformation. In the newspapers of the day, the bankers screamed and protested against the new Federal Reserve Bill. It would ruin the banks, they exclaimed. The average person read the protesting articles of the bankers and thought to themselves, if the bankers hate it, it must be good. And then they ended up unknowingly supporting a Trojan horse. The bankers also fooled Congress by putting clauses in the bill that limited their power, only to remove them once the bill was passed. A double head fake of the public and Congress was all it took. The bill was passed on December 23, 1913, while most of Congress was out on holiday. And with that, a small group had complete monopoly over the issuing and creation of American money.
Sums it up pretty well, don't you think, Jeff?
You think about how long this elite class or the power hold has been going on and the manipulation of powers. Tomorrow night, I'll bring up an individual that actually, be an interesting name that a lot of people don't probably know, but it's very telling when we see the central bank taking from the people, because we're seeing the whole thing play out all over again as interest rates skyrocket, as cost of goods go up, as inflation remains unchecked, and people it's impacting Americans at large. I'm sure it's on a global scale too, but here we're seeing it every single day with price of gas, price of food, and I think price of food is probably the biggest shock for most people. And I think as a overall general average, people's expenses are going up maybe $300 to $500 extra per month. And a lot of people can't afford that. And they have to make difficult decisions, as there's also, evidence to show that people are utilizing credit cards in mass rate to help offset the differences. And that becomes even more problematic. And then it goes back to the notion of the central bank and, what do they control? What do they own? Because at the end of the day, the people at the, they're going to come out okay. The people at the top come out okay. And those that are somewhat in control. And it goes back to Chip, what, we brought up with Elon Musk, and we can dive more into that tomorrow too, and what his statements were. And basically, trying to blackmail him over money, but here's a guy that's worth a whole bunch of money, And then earlier on in the show, we talked about how the SEC, basically dismantled library, mainly because of not having deep pockets, and they could have taken, they're going to take down companies that can't support it. Ripple, on the other hand, had $150 million sitting in the bank that they could fight back against the SEC plus, so they fought back. But there's this notion of Goliath, just constantly stepping on David, and just squashing him. And so that's where big government comes into play, because as you go around the world, whether it's a central bank or big government, Chip, look what happens. Big government will always squash the individual and will
Yeah,
always
always.
take from the individual. And then you lose individuality, you lose self-determination, you lose everything. And we're starting to see the stupidity of many in today's younger society that seem to like the fact that big government can coddle and support them.
Yeah, but I think the tide's it's changing. If you look at what's
It is,
happening in
yeah.
Spain right now, look what's
Yep.
happening in Spain, right? They try to do that coup there, the socialist coup, and so you've got problems. And look at France. France is stepping up too. The farmers are out there dumping waste over on the by some of the governmental buildings over there protesting. We saw what happened in the Netherlands. Like, one of the things I've learned, like, on the planet, I've learned this: two groups of people you just don't mess with, Jeff. One of them is truckers. Canadian
Mhm.
truckers said, "We're not taking this. We don't care what you do. You can squash our bank accounts, do whatever. We got big
Right.
rigs. We're not moving them." The second one were the farmers, right? So the farmers who just minding their own business, who are producing. They're up at 4:30, 5 a.m. They're working their ass off all day, and all of a sudden the Netherlands comes in and says, "Oh, sorry, man, no more fertilizers, no more of this, no more of that. Green, green, green. Sorry, you're. Oh, and by the way, we're taking most of your land." Well, the farmers, they got on their tractors, they got on their trucks, and they protested. And they made all the difference in the world, because it woke a lot of people up over there. They said, wait a minute, hang on, hold up. This doesn't make any sense. And so we see someone like Gert Wilders, who's now, will be the prime minister. He's going to form a coalition government. And it's amazing what he's saying, Jeff, because he's saying those dirty little things that people won't say. And he said, if you want to come in this country, your ideals don't align with Dutch law. If you believe this, that is incongruent with Dutch law. And guess what? It's incongruent with almost every other place. But you know where it's not incongruent with? With Middle East countries, right? Why don't you go to Jordan? Why don't you go to Saudi Arabia? These are your beliefs and values, then go there. Funny thing is,
Mhm.
nobody wants them. They want their own peace. They've got control. They don't need rabble rousers. They don't need people coming in there trying to blow things up. They don't want that. So you can see that there is this march towards freedom, and you got the one side, the elites, the CBDCs, and you're going to be great, and digital ID. But don't worry, we're really concerned about your privacy, Jeff, which is a first red flag.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And we can get into this more tomorrow, but I find it interesting to see how the media slants and twists narratives. They say, why are younger voters flocking to the far right in parts of Europe? But they're making it sound like they're supporting, Nazism. I don't know if we can talk about that here on YouTube, but we can talk about it in depth tomorrow. But it's in fact the left, the blue team, that's
Right.
supporting it in all of these areas, not and so there's a real misunderstanding and a twisting of the truth and the narratives. And that's where, we look and what they're talking about, even with Gert Builders here, they're talking about the delays and the problems and the everything that he's going to run into. Some of it's true, but they're trying to twist the narrative, just like the video that you just played about the central bank. They twist the narrative. They twist the terminology. They
Well,
take
Jeff,
away reality and make you believe that yellow is blue and blue is yellow. And doesn't matter what you say, but they're going to be correct and you're wrong.
well, this is what we saw recently, where they want to, Nikki Haley came out again, missing a lot of brain cells over there, right? Complete rhino, just I don't even know what she's doing. I mean, her whole campaign imploded even before it began, right? Because of the
Mhm.
one simple statement is like, hey, if President Trump runs, will you run? I will not run if he runs. Of course, that was a lie. So everything you say after that is complete. If you're going to lie about something so big like that, you're going to lie about everything. But she came out and said her plan was that you must disclose, and everybody must be out there, and you have to use real names. We have to vet people. And it's like, well, go back to the Federalist Papers, and they were written under pseudonyms for a reason, right? This has been going on. So what you're seeing is like history repeats itself. But if you're not a somebody who really spends a lot of time reading and understanding what's going on, look at 1912 and 1913. Is anybody surprised to learn that over 100 years ago, propaganda was spread by the media? And at that time, there wasn't acts. You couldn't jump online. There was no media. It was just, certain circles of people and gatherings, right? And most of the day was done with newspapers. There wasn't any TV back then. So all of your manipulation happened through that. And they cleverly, in just a small clip, explained exactly how they hoodwinked, and this is known how they thought, like, well, the banks hate this thing, then it's got to be good. Then everybody's got to love it. And funny enough, the propaganda, the misalignment has been going on forever. We just wait. You know who woke everybody up to it? Orange Man Bad. Orange Man Bad started calling it fake news. Everyone's, what do you mean? What do you mean fake news? What does that mean? What are you saying exactly, fake news? And now everybody knows it is fake news. It's all garbage propaganda. You can call it propaganda, whatever you want, but it's all like that. So we have here, I want to cue this next clip up because this is right in the line with the CBDC. This is unelected head of the EU, Ursula von der Leyen, which she talks about the digital ID and a European-wide. Any citizen can use anywhere in Europe to do so, from paying your taxes to renting a bicycle, right? So here we go. Let's listen to this right here and tell us.
Mal, wenn eine Website uns auffordert, eine neue digitale Identität zu erstellen.
So let me just
in English.
Yeah, it's not in English, but hang on a second. It's important what she says. Let me just.
Jedes Mal, wenn eine Website
every
uns
time.
auffordert.
So every time an app or website asks us to create a new digital ID, right? So they see the guys where they're going under. You see, simple and easy, Jeff. This is going to be simple and easy what they're going to do.
Right.
So every time you go to a web, you got to create this new digital thing, which you got to log in, put your name and all your credentials and all that stuff, right? But don't worry, Ursula, she's Ursula von der Leyen has a perfect solution for everybody, Jeff. In case you're wondering, so
we can use
Eine neue
Google
digitale
or Apple
Identität zu
login.
erstellen.
or easily log into a big platform. Why can I not see that there?
Because you got when you pause it,
Yeah, maybe that's why. Let me go.
it overlays it.
Yeah, create a new digital
sure
or
people
easily
know.
log into a big platform. We have no idea what happens to our data in reality. It's a long time to say that bit, huh? That's why the Commission will propose a secure European e-identity. Oh, thank you for saving us. So I really appreciate that. And one that we trust and one that each citizen can use anywhere in Europe to do anything, Jeff. God, it sounds fantastic, right? From paying your taxes to renting a bicycle, a technology where you can control ourselves, what data and how data is used. And she goes on to say, I think that was it. So there you go. This is how they try. This is exactly how they bring you to, like, oh, that makes sense. Let's see. So if I have a digital ID, I just use that digital ID everywhere, right? Where the government tracks me and everything that I do. Oh, and then we tie that creates my social score if I'm doing the right things in the eyes of the elites and the government, or if I'm doing something bad. And then we tie that to the CBDC, and well, geez, this is the same propaganda as the central bank, right? It's all under the guise of easy. It's going to be better for the people. Right. It's going to make your lives easier. And it's exactly the opposite. So people need
exactly the opposite.
They need to wake the hell up, Jeff. They really do.
Yeah, it's exactly the opposite. It's extremely problematic that the EU is contemplating that. They're leveraging the fact they think people are stupid, which is shocking. So that, what they're talking about, hey, we log into all these different accounts. We have to have, and that's true. I don't want to have a whole bunch of different passwords and everything, but that's why we use Google. Hey, you know what? Oh, I can log in with my Google account. Oh, I can log in with Apple. I can log in, and you log in and it's easy. Now, if they would just all adopt that, we don't need government to come up with easier solutions. We need entrepreneurs to come up with easier solutions and make things better and streamlined. Keep government out of it, because 100% that when they, like you're just saying, if they say it's easy and it's good for you, it's the exact opposite. It's difficult and it's really bad for you. It's going to be very, very harmful, and that's going to be problematic. So from that perspective, to the other thing you mentioned with the CBDC, imagine now you connect the digital ID to the digital currency, and now you're traced every single thing that you do. You have zero freedom. You have zero freedom of expenditures. They take away your cash, so cash disappears. You can't just go out to the store. They know what you bought, when you bought it. Now, if you use a credit card, you could try to make that same argument, but the only way government can access that data, or should be, would be through the court, through a court order, if that individual is under investigation for a specific crime related to something to do with whatever that credit card was being utilized for, or they're digging in. But the government should not have access otherwise. And in this scenario, what we're seeing is from the central bank, under this guise of simplicity of movement of money, streamlining payments, decreasing the expense and cost of streamlining payment flow. And then you have this notion that the EU, that the US, whatever region you're in, is going to simplify your life with a digital ID, digital currency, digital ID. Now, all of a sudden, your life is better. Just look at what happened and what is going to happen even further over across the globe, over in China with the digital yuan, et cetera. So I think
Is it
you're
a
going to
globe,
start
Jeff?
seeing that unravel. What
Is it a globe?
is it? What?
Is it? You said a globe. As I said, is it a globe?
It is a globe.
Okay. Gonna have that debate coming to the show very soon. Gonna have that debate. We're gonna do it right here on the chain. Jeff, I don't know what happened to Coinbase, but Coinbase put out a very good ad that shocked me, and sort of said the quiet part out loud, which was remarkable. But they put out this ad. I want to play this, and I want to hear your feedback, guys. And if you're on the rewatch, tell me what you think of this. Here we go.
It's a system, Emma.
We're born into it. A system with numbers and papers.
And lines. And waiting.
You work hard, get good grades, go to college.
I want to go to college. I got good grades.
I overachieved.
That's right, she did.
Debt is good?
Debt is so good.
So much debt.
I can totally save up and buy a house and start a family.
I want a family.
Oh.
Starting a family means you need 2 or 3 jobs.
You can't afford to buy.
Oh.
You can't afford to rent.
Used cars cost as much as the new ones.
Oh.
It's weird.
Good debt is good.
I was head of my class.
Houses are too expensive.
You work hard, get good.
The system, the numbers.
Rent is freaking insane.
Breaking news. Everything is terrible.
Does it have to be this way?
What if it was different?
It's always been that way.
We've got to build our way out of it. Yeah.
Put control back to the hands of the people, not the bureaucracy.
A system with less paperwork.
No waiting. No lines.
Permissionless.
Just because you're born into a system
Doesn't mean you have to live with it.
What did you think of that, Jeff?
Man, that
Holy shit! Right?
that's unbelievable. I think what we're starting to see, and it's resonating very clear right now, and we've talked about this a long time. There's 2 powers that are at play. There's the power that will back the central bank and big government, and then there's the powers that are backing entrepreneurship and freedom to the people. And it's never been as clear as it's unfolding itself today, because a lot of those that now they realize we're in a fight of our lifetimes. And so you have the backings of Coinbase, Kraken, X, so Elon Musk, obviously, Trump, and there's, but from an entrepreneurial perspective, you have all these companies that are realizing that if you continue down this path of big government, it's going to destroy the will of the people. And it's making your life miserable. And so we need to change that, and we need to put the power back. And that, to me, that Coinbase ad, needs to be played every single day on every single channel in every single classroom around the world, because that's what it's all about. That just put everything into perspective. It puts everything into perspective, right down to the baby, saying, do we have to live this way? Because we're allowing, it's our responsibility to hand over to the next generation better than we received it. And under the guise of the blue team and the red team rhinos, what we're doing is compiling the power into the hands of the few, removing it from from you're taking away opportunity from the majority, and we're leaving our legacy in a worse position to the next generation than we received it. And it's to no fault of those that are running the system and those that are allowing it and are along for the ride and are just stepping onto this this train and just watching it all unfold in front of us. And we're at the juncture right now where it's going to stop. And there's a lot of big players that want it to stop, because if it doesn't stop, Coinbase goes away, X goes away, and they're trying to dismantle all of these freedoms. And
classic fascism.
Coinbase and X represent your freedoms. That's my thought. What's your thought on that, Chip?
I mean, I think it's a brilliant ad. I think, what the underlying tone on that whole thing is, you are raised to be a slave and you're taught to be a slave, and what you're told, and the education system's controlled by the government. Government is telling you exactly all the things you're going to think about, everything. This is how it is, and this is how, and the funny thing is, I remember even being a kid that was questioned everything, and I got in a lot of trouble for it because I questioned everything. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Of course, I was raised in Catholic schools, and of course, I took apart Catholicism, based on the fact that, like, where is this in the Bible? Okay, if the Bible is our base instrument here, then what does this mean? What are the sacraments? I started questioning stuff, and I got in trouble a lot. And they thought I was just a kid. And I was like, no, you explain how this works. And like, oh no, don't look under that rock. So the same thing happened in school. You're taught all these things and you just accept them as fact, because science, Jeff, science is infallible. It's like science is a constant question. Science is an open question. There's no settled science. So when you hear the left talk about settled science, it's been settled by who? Oh, by the 100, scientists. Well, who are they? Well, they all get grants from the government. Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. I see how it works, right? Oh, those ones. What about the independent ones that have a different stream of thought? No, that's settled science. So you see this whole thing, and what it points out really does a really good job of, from a little kid to the teacher to the, and like, oh, you're going to do this, you're going to buy a house, you're going to get married, you're going to do all these things. Oh, wait a minute, raising a family, it's not for you. You don't have enough money. And so it points out and also highlights what a failure the Biden administration has been. Everybody from Janet Yellen, you name it, all the way down, Treasury. It's a failed system. And the only solution is getting rid of the Federal Reserve. It's got to go. And I hope it goes in the next administration. It just has to go. You need a sovereign currency. And what's weird, Jeff, is I get into these spaces where I talk to a bunch of people, and I feel like I'm the only one talking about, like, everyone else is like, no, that's not how it is. I'm like, the central bank has to go away. It's not a sovereign. And I had this debate online with somebody. I'm like, it's not a sovereign currency. Like, this is the definition of sovereign. I'm like, this is the definition of sovereign currency. Okay. It's not run by the people. It doesn't belong to the people. It's a third party entity that nobody knows what's going on with their balance sheet. But I'm telling you, a lot of nasty stuff's going on over there. I mean, if it's never been audited, we can only figure that out in time. So Ted Cruz right now is calling for the IRS to be replaced with a flat tax. Now, we've heard these conversations before, but
years.
Get rid of the IRS. We don't need 80,000 new agents. Who are they looking under? They're looking under working class people that have 2 jobs and can't make it right now, right? But we're being told, Jeff, look at this. This right here makes me laugh so hard, because it just goes to show you how incredibly. Let's see. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. Look at this right here. Let's take a look at this. So this tweet came out yesterday, this X post, I should say. And this is the resident in the White House said, "We've made real progress getting breathing room to families." Sorry, you've made no room. It's out of control. But I know prices are still too high for many. Yeah, because inflation, this whole thing of inflation is 3%. Inflation is 400%. If you go back to 1970s, early 1970s, the dollar does it, once it loses its value, it doesn't come back. These prices are not coming down. Okay. And stupidity from the top down. And then he goes on to say, that's why I'm fighting every day and calling on corporations to lower costs for families, even as Republicans in Congress focus on lowering taxes for the wealthy. Same old boring, bad narrative. The Republicans want to, and then he wanted to then put a 20% tax for billionaires, and that would raise roughly under $500 billion over 10 years.
And eventually people's money runs out. Well, the reason somebody else said this, went down this exact path, and that was Chavez in Venezuela. How did that turn out for them? attacked corporations. He supported big government, told the people that it was the big corporations that were stealing from them, that's the reason why the cost of goods was going up. Was the causation of millions of percent of inflation. It was all bullshit. Chavez also told people that lived in poverty that they could live in the wealthy neighborhoods. And what he did was he nationalized golf courses and parks and built tenement housing and moved, poor families into the wealthy neighborhoods. And then what do you think happened to those neighborhoods? Right. So, and the enclaves of a lot of the government assisted housing is done on purpose. And that the purpose is to manage and maintain the people in those communities at certain poverty levels. So the government is and incentivizes the people, incentivizes crime to proliferate in those communities. The government has no incentive to remove people from those impoverished communities, and they stage it in such a way that it remains oppressed. And they use that, and they've done that for years. We see that in Europe. You see it a lot in England. You see it a lot in the U.S. And it's a travesty that you see things like that occurring. I just want to bring this comment up right here. Sorry, and then we got to get into Flare, and we got to talk about that
next.
update.
Up next.
But Kate was talking about the Coinbase video. Kate saying, powerful video. I just added it to my American Dream curriculum for my 11th grade students. We have to show them there are other ways. And you're right. And if you can give anything to a student today about the American dream, it's that, working towards a job is probably not the right direction for many people. Looking for ways of entrepreneurship and innovation is the right way. But having a work ethic, having, being productive within society, but going to get a college degree in today's day and age, I think that for decades, we've been sold a bill of goods that if you get a piece of paper with a bachelor's degree, at one point a high school degree was enough to get a job. Then it was a bachelor's degree. Then it was an advanced degree, and then it was a professional advanced degree. And then you have all these PhDs that come up with all these hypotheses and twist narratives. And then it goes to the government as they, and then the government, funding all of the universities through the loans that these students are taking out and indebting themselves because of the government-backed loans that go to the universities that are proliferating communist thought. So it's such a narrative. And then you look at the central bank. What do these all have to do? But it starts right there in high school, in elementary school, in middle school. It starts with our teachers. If our teachers in the schools keep proliferating communist thought process, then the students coming out will preach communist thought process. If our teachers, like Kate, believe in a curriculum about the American dream, imagine what that can mean, and people from all over the world today, whether, through legal immigration, come to the United States from countries all over the world because they still are passionate about the American dream. You know who isn't passionate about it? The American student. Americans have no idea what it is, overall, the way that the education system is created to sacrifice and build something unique. And granted, we have a lot of entrepreneurs here and innovators here, which is amazing, but our education system has been twisted through misinformation to believe that we don't have this American dream and we don't have entrepreneurship. So that's my 2 cents on that rant.
Yeah,
let's talk about some Flare, Chip.
Imagine you're blessed to have a teacher like Kate who is showing you a spectrum, not just a narrow sort of but a spectrum of what's possible, and showing you both sides of the coin. And you get to choose, right? You get to look at it like, hey, what makes sense? And this is what bothered me is when they changed the curriculum in the U.S. and they went from what was called history, because you actually learn history, but you only learn certain periods of history, right? That's the other thing. Then they call it social studies. Well, no, it's not social studies. You could see the turn where once you let the woke mind virus in, once you bend the knee, once you say, well, we'll let that in, it just comes full force. It doesn't stop. So unless you put up some resistance to it and say like, no, we're not going to do that. No, that doesn't hold true to our Constitution. So you see the left nonstop, always about we got to defend the Constitution. Well, great, because everything you're doing with censorship and everything violated the Constitution. And then the Supreme Court slapped the Biden administration down and said, no, you can't censor. And then they're appealing. So wait a minute. They're appealing to be able to censor every American, what they say, or deplatform them. That's the reality. The gibberish, I always told my daughters, I said, doesn't matter what a guy says. I don't care what they say. Watch what they do. Don't listen to what they say. They'll say all kinds of great things. I know how this works. Watch what they do. And what they do, does that match up with the stuff that's coming out of their mouth? No. And that's that's basically called government right there, right? It's just a con job. So Jose Solomon says, Solidum says, is Flare dead? No, Flare's not dead. The price is actually has some pretty steady movements in it. But I want to put this up here because Flare put this really important update out. The assets beta is now live on Flare's cost and testnet, a milestone for 800 billion of crypto assets. System will allow tokens like Bitcoin, XRP, and Doge to be used trustlessly with smart contracts on Flare, earning yield, and DeFi dApps, and bridging to other chains. This is a very important update. I mean, it's on the cost and testnet for right now, but it eventually will make its way over. And there's also a very good video that kind of explains like what the assets are. So I'm going to put that on. Let me add that. I think it's right
Today, the total value of all public blockchain assets is approximately $1 trillion. However, more than 70% of this value is made up of tokens from blockchains that can't support smart contracts, a critical requirement for decentralized applications. The F-asset system, developed by Flare Labs, allows these assets such as Bitcoin, XRP, and Dogecoin to be used trustlessly in smart contracts on Flare. Minting these tokens as F-assets enables them to earn rewards in DeFi and other types of decentralized applications. Once the F-assets are minted on Flare, they can also be bridged to other networks using Layercake. For developers, this means secure, trustless access to a vast amount of currently untapped value and new potential users. To securely represent these assets on a smart contract chain without requiring a centralized third party, the F-asset system relies upon Flare's native data acquisition protocols. Firstly, the Flare Time Series Oracle for decentralized price feeds, and secondly, the Stake Connector for trustless verification of transactions on the underlying chain. F-assets are backed by 3 asset types: the underlying, Flare native token collateral, and either stablecoin or wrapped ether collateral. The process of minting and redeeming F-assets is supported by independent agents. Their role in the system is secured through over-collateralization, removing the need to trust any counterparty. To mint F-assets, the minter must first select an agent and pay them a small fee to reserve the required collateral. The minter then sends the agent the underlying asset, with the stake connector used to prove the transactions taken place on the other chain. With the payment verified, the F-assets are then minted as ERC20 tokens on Flare. These tokens can be used within DeFi on Flare or bridged to another chain. F-assets unlocks the value of non-smart contract tokens. Unlike many wrapped asset systems, F-assets are trustless, meaning there's no centralized entity involved in the process. Holders of F-assets on Flare will also earn FLR from the cross-chain incentive pool for bringing value onto the Flare network.
Thoughts, Jeff?
Thoughts?
I mean,
Digital Citizen said, too bad they couldn't come up with a better name than F-assets. F-assets.
F-assets.
What the hell?
Well, I think they were thinking about F-assets like Flare assets, but it is kind of
it is
kind
funny.
of almost like go F yourself with F-assets.
With F-assets. So Jared is saying all of this is still too complicated for most people. And I agree, but I think what they're talking about right now is this is the back end of the technology, right? So they're highlighting and introducing the back end. We're still too early, industry speaking, for a lot of this technology. It's now all coming to the forefront. So I think we're going to start seeing the battle unfold. It's kind of like, if we had to look at the battle between VHS and Betamax. right? And we got into the technology. If we were sitting here on a podcast back
We got to
then,
come up with a more modern analogy, Jeff. We can't go back to the 80s again, man. We can't.
but
We got to
there's
get. We got to.
really okay. Let's but
Come
one
up with
big
a better analogy
but
than
one beat the other though, because one
well,
technology
that's
disappeared.
bad
What other
technology.
example do we have of a
Oh, there's a lot
technology
of
that
tech.
fought and disappeared? What's
Well, there's a
another a
lot of.
modern one?
Back
Think
in
of
the
a
day,
modern one.
I had a beta machine and it was much better.
And
But
it's
again,
better, right? But the point is that
better
if we
didn't
were
win
sitting
out.
on a podcast in the 80s and we're talking about
Here's
it,
an updated version of that.
it'd be
Okay,
super complex.
so here we are talking about. So in there, they talk about ERC20. They talk about the token. So when you think, so what had me think about is you got ETH. So Ethereum basically was, you had Vitalik Buterin, who was couch surfing on Stefan Thomas's couch, and they had the original idea. Ripple had the original idea for smart contracts. He went and took it and got it out there first. We know that early, and it's even debatable whether ETH is 100% decentralized now, right? Especially with the latest comments from Vitalik. So they just rushed it out. Wasn't right, wasn't good, wasn't decentralized, but doesn't matter. They had the whales purchasing in, everybody was good at getting in, everybody's buying it for 99 cents, and then we saw the price go up and everyone became rich. And so what? You lost track of what the original ideas, but that's probably a more modern version of where there are better smart contracts that exist in other places, but the one that everything got adopted was the first mover advantage with Ethereum, and that's where it is. And it's a crappy, it's a horrific experience. I don't like anything from using the crappy wallets that are out there for it. It's just like, it's not my thing. Jim D's saying so Flare is playing into centralized ideology. I don't see where. Explain how you think they're.
Yeah, I don't see that.
It's trustless. Yeah, I don't see how you're playing in a centralized ideology. I mean, it is trustless and it doesn't rely on anybody. I mean, you could say that the people that are providing the price stuff, that itself
there has to be some central, right? There's going to be a central, not centralized ideology, but you can't have everything, right? But not everything is going to be decentralized. At some point, there has to be a responsible party through the process. There's going to be, because that's a world we live in. We're not in a completely trustless world, but at some point there has to be a crossover. There's going to be some trustless in terms of establishing trust between parties, the counterparties, but there still has to be a mechanism, whatever that solution is. I don't care if it's a software that's built. If it's a software that's built that the two parties are using as a trustless system, that's still centralized because someone has to develop that software. It's not going to be open source.
Right,
I think that's really important.
The process itself for smart is trustless because it does not rely on that third party
it doesn't rely on it. Right.
So that's what makes it. That's the part you want. As a company like Jeff's talking about, there is centralization in the development of that, and other organizations participating in that. The DApps, those are going to be centralized organizations, but the actual process itself that runs needs to be decentralized. And this is where a lot of this stuff is kind of hit and miss here. But I think that ultimately, this is a great thing. That's why we've seen. I want to see if I can you pull up the Flare pricing there, Jeff?
Yeah, I'll pull it up. I have it up already, but here, I have a reoccurring nightmare of being trapped in an elevator with Vitalik Buterin, and he's got terrible breath and huge head like a lemon on a toothpick.
Jesus, that is a horrible thing, man. Pull it up.
So here's our price chart. So what I like to look at is
zoom in to hours.
So it's initial, right? So it came out back in February 23, about a year ago here, right, at about 5 cents, just a little bit under, right, at 4 cents, blasted up to close to 5 cents. It was 4.5 cents at its height. Right now, we're hovering at about 0.014 cents. But if we go into like a 30-day view, we can say over the past 30 days, we're getting some movement. We're getting a little bit in the past 14 days. We're getting a little bit of a spike that just happened here. And a spike, we went from 0.012 to 0.015. But when we're talking about pennies, that's, talking about a nice increase in percentage. There's, we're just seeing that there's some excitement that going on. Something happened here yesterday, at 4 p.m. that decided, hey, you know what? We gotta spike a little bit. There was something going on. We look at the grander scheme of things over a year, but you can still see, we kind of reached a bottom over here at about 0.008, under a penny, and that was just in October. So from October till now, we've gone from 0.008 to 0.015. And so we're starting to trend in an interesting direction.
Spike there. So a lot of what happened there too is you had there you go. So that's what it looks like recently. So it's kind of on the uptick. It's not anywhere near the 5 cents, but the point is that Flare, a lot of these like layer cakes is not ready yet. You've got F assets on the cost and test net. So a lot of it was the token came out, but a lot of the back end pieces that are instrumental in making this any of value that would reflect value. It's almost like, if Ripple had they released, I mean, my God, they obviously XRP is out there, but it's almost like if they didn't have any software actually built and working, they had the idea of doing cross-border payments. And that's kind of what happened early days. So you're going to see, people that got into, with XRP at 0.003, 0.006. I know a lot of people that bought in really early. I got it a little bit later than that, but you can see that the value grows over time. But again, it all comes down to the use case and how you're going to use Flare and how you're going to be able to use it in a smart contract, provide liquidity, and then be able to be rewarded with with value coming back in. So this is where it's ultimately going. We don't have that right now, but I've said that Flare, is something that it's always been very exciting to me of where it can go. But again, there's a lot of development that has to happen, and building's not easy, man. It takes a little bit of time and effort, but I do think that they're on the right course over there. I think that they're going down the right, the right path. It's just a matter of they got to get this stuff built. They just got to get it built in time. And I want to throw this up, Jeff, because this was
even though they're using ERC-20s.
Well, again, that's what I talk about. That's what I talk about. That first mover advantage, right? But you got to remember that, Jeff, the same way we have a brand new, we have 2 projects that are on the XRPL. We've got a third NFT project that's going to come out on Bitcoin ordinals. That's right. I said Bitcoin ordinals. Why? Because first of all, some of the most amazing projects that you've seen are over there. And because it kind of grew out of nothing, it's a very different thing where actually the art is through what they call inscriptions is stored on chain. This doesn't happen everywhere else. So you've got with the XRPL, it's not stored there. It's in a decentralized storage system, but it's not on the actual XRP blockchain for obvious reasons. So you're limited. And of course, as the price of Bitcoin rises, there's a whole different ecosystem. But the reason we're branching out into new chains is because of the opportunity to be able to be in front of an audience that appreciates NFT projects and also like-minded NFT projects. This is our Badass Chimps project. And so when we're looking at putting that out, so I look at it liken it the same thing. It's like you want to be in front of which sort of group of people, ERC-20, you want to be able to people that have Ethereum to be able to come over and stake, right? It's funny how they gave Doge a use case. This is going to be big for Doge and people start adopting it. So I think they're in the right frame of mind, Jeff. I think it's the right way, and I'm happy to see the develops. And that's why we will get the $5, $10, $15, $20. It will go there. But again, they got to keep developing it. They got to roll out officially, not on the test net. They got to roll out F assets. They got to roll out the layer cake. It all has to be developed.
Yeah, I think that's key. Development. We're still early to all this technology, so the applicability of it into current day financial infrastructure is still a little ways out. Look how long it's taken for RippleNet to penetrate into the banking infrastructure. It's 10 years, and they're still not there.
Penetrated.
Right?
It still hasn't penetrated. Right?
They got to penetrate it.
So, I wanted to give a big birthday shout out to Alex Yeet, guys. Give him a birthday greeting. Yesterday was his birthday, so say a big happy birthday to you, man. And so I wanted to just put one more thing up before we get out of here because we're running a little bit late here, but I wanted to run something else. What do you got? Do you want to read that?
What do you think? This is interesting. And we started, a while back, we talked about there's a coin for everything for different aspects, and you could build different technology into it. But here's what iReal Media is saying. I predict all these companies will have interoperable coins like Uber driver coin to get paid through the XRPL, cannabis coin, etc. And it could be interesting if they start creating an infrastructure around that, and where that coin, let's say for the Uber drivers or and maybe it's all Uber, Lyft, all the different types of mobility platforms. You know, if it's going to maybe a taxi, well, you know, you get a coin that can help facilitate transportation like that. And it could be a transportation coin, and there's other utility around it. And it ties things together. It could be interesting. Not sure if that's, you know, we'll see how that develops. So that's very interesting, the interoperability of it.
Lower level. Hey, he says, hey, happy birthday, Yeet. His birthday's today, so big shout out, birthday greeting to Lower Level. It's been here forever.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you guys.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday.
Birthday to Lower Level and
Alex
Yeet.
Yeet. There you go. Big birthday shout out greeting. We need like an official on the chain birthday greeting song. It's just
we do. That'll be good. We'll write one up and ready jingle.
And also too, so I put this poll up there on it came out of a space. I was talking about this on a Twitter, on an X space, and I mentioned this, and they're like, hey, we gotta know. I'm like, I'm putting the poll up right now, and it was, what type of phone is commonly used by members of the XRP community? And of course, the one that's the best one won out, because Android's full of shit. I mean, who wants anything from Google? You can say what you want about Apple, but when the terrorists shot a bunch of people up and they went to Apple and they said, hey, can you open the phone? They're like, no, sorry, we can't. We believe in privacy. You can't do it. Now, they have been subpoenaed by the government and they have given it up. Garbage phone. And everyone likes, like, I like an inferior design screen. I like inferior stuff, but I can do stuff with it. And it's like, you can do shitty things with it, but that's all it is. So I tend to go towards UI, UX, best experience, right? 616 votes. iPhone clearly won, almost 60% to 40%. Just a trouncing. And Android is
you extrapolate that, Chip. There was another research study done about iPhone versus Android users, and they said that those that buy iPhone products will overspend on their products more so than those that use Android.
Yeah, you get those cheap.
Because you get more value with Android than you will with iPhone.
Yeah, more value. Okay, dude. But you also pay for the design. You pay for a good infrastructure. It's the same way I'm looking at my black.
There's nothing I can't do on my phone that you can't do on yours.
It's not. But so this is what people are shouting
in your pocket.
Right? It's all about the look and feel. It looks shitty. It is shitty. It's garbage. Right?
It's a phone.
What I'm bringing it down, liking it to, like the same way I'm looking at a black M3 processor. Yeah, it's expensive, but here's the thing.
That's
it's
different.
The ecosystem and way it works. It's the same thing, man. The value of what
your phone can only do so much versus your laptop that you use for artistic things, creating music and all of that.
I can do on my MacBook. You can do everything on the same, pretty much. I mean, you can actually probably do more things in gaming, right? But again, it's the UI UX, right? It's the user experience, it's the user interface that makes Apple Apple. And
what I like about that, what I like about the Apple infrastructure is that when you have something on your phone, you can easily seamlessly tie it to your PC or to your computer.
That is great. Like, I copy something right here, like a link, and then I can actually just paste it on my computer. So the round trip is pretty cool. You know, look, it comes down to basic. Do you like chocolate or vanilla? Some people love chocolate, some people love vanilla. And that's what's great, is to have choice. And that's why if you would like an Android phone, for me, I've been steeped in the Apple ecosystem. I go back to 92 when I bought my first Apple II CX, and I paid $7,200 for it. That was crazy. I said, do I get a new car or do I buy that? And I bought a laser printer for $5,000. See, so that was just massively expensive. This computer did not cost $7,200, but the power in it is incredible. Pretty close. Pretty close, Jeff. Again, I think that had like 1 gig of RAM, something ridiculous, 500 megs of RAM, something really ridiculous.
Right.
128 gigabytes of RAM versus a storage drive that was like 100, not even like, I think it was a 60 megabyte drive. It was just it's just, again, it comes down to preference. So let's look at this. So Bobby XRP, who's in the Jeff camp, said, wow, I would have thought XRP was smarter. The XRP community was smarter than use Apple products. And Weetsa Win came in and said, well, iOS is more secure than Android, though, which matters when dealing with self-custody. Boom, mic drop. Bling.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Drop the mic. So this is so I love that Weetsa came on the back end and talked about the security. And the other thing too is, like, when you have centralization, so you have to upload your app to the App Store. Yeah, they take 30%, but Google, I think, takes a pretty good chunk too. Problem is, there's a lot of Android users. A lot of Android users are like, I'll just download this app from the website. And then their phone gets infected and their seed phrase gets taken. And they're like, geez, I don't know what happened. I just get hit by a bus and I don't know how it happened. So inherently, some of that security that's built into that and can read egregious code. And you have to go, there is a period where you have to be able to put that up. Let's see this here. This one, Tyson Malone said, biased, of course, but I can imagine people who prefer iPhones probably don't return their shopping carts and mostly drive a BMW or a Tesla. Haha. and I put, I prefer iPhone. I use a MacBook M3. I don't drive a Tesla or Mercedes, and I always return my shopping carts. Well, most of the time.
That's a real funny comment.
So yeah, I mean, sometimes.
How does somebody come to that conclusion that if you use an iPhone, you don't return your shopping carts? That's hilarious.
Apple, I don't know, man. I mean, there might be some truth. I don't know. It might be a secret study done about that. But then Tim, Faith Over Fear, XRP, said Apple's the darling of the left and the go-to choice for people who like to be told what they can do with the things they own.
Right.
And I'm like, and Google is the darling of the right. Okay. So
that's right.
Right. They're both in the same boat there. Okay. They both get a red check mark for that. Okay. There's no advantage there. They're both evil in their own ways. No.
Yeah. Google or Apple. That's your decision.
I'll take Google over Apple. More importantly, in this discussion is that at least Google doesn't lock down their hardware and kick out any software that doesn't coincide with their political ideals. Point there. Point well taken. Okay. But also there are Google have. In the Google Play Store, they have censored stuff and they have deleted it too. So it, again, big red check mark goes to, and a half a red check mark goes to Google, big red check mark to Apple, Android all the way. I like being able to actually control my own device. And I'm like, yeah, huge misconception I hear from Android users. Do you use a PC also? He says, it's not a misconception. You can customize iPhones, but not to the extent you can on Android. So yeah, you can, and I listen, I've seen Android phones and I'm like, dude, you can have that customization. I'm good. I don't need that crappy looking interface. He said,
I've been right about this though. You can't do that on an Apple.
Again, do I give a shit though? Do I give a shit?
If you're a gamer.
No, I'm talking about, don't confuse. He's talking about you can customize it, but not to the extent. But again,
right. This
is one little, I mean, I've seen the way people have customized their phones. I'm okay with not customizing it to that extent. I've seen it. He says, I've been a PC gamer all my life and I want to build my own rigs and typically dual boot Windows and Linux. Windows is a better gaming experience in my opinion.
It is.
That is true. That is true to an extent, but that's because the masses had PCs. First mover advantage. That's your updated analogy, Jeff.
But the use case, yeah. What's that?
Mac, well, I'll say Mac has a better infrastructure, especially the Mac Silicon, like the M3. The M series is powerful. It's more powerful than Intel. M3 is incredible when you compare it to anything of the other chipsets. It wasn't always that way. The old Macs used Intel chips. They got away. They started making their own silicon and chips, and then the M1 to the M3 series. Each series has gotten way more powerful. So in that sense, it's on par. Problem is that you got to go where the money is, and the money was always in the PC platform. So I will succumb to that.
Point. And that's where Apple was always built for graphic artists and music, right? I mean, that was the powerhouse behind it all. Versus the PC was more, watered down a little bit in terms of its reasoning.
Better looking, a better well-designed. It comes down to the user experience, and the user interface. That's what I look at. So I said it comes down to personal preference. I prefer better overall experience with UI UX. Both Android and Windows fall short. That's just my personal opinion there.
Yep.
AJ came in waiting for a partner to use XRP.
That's great.
He says. But it's ironic, isn't it? XRP users all about decentralized money movement, yet most have most centralized phone. They're all centralized. I hate to tell you that they're all centralized. And if you want to know, Google tracks. Apple cut the tracking out. Google knows everything you do on your Android phone, every single thing. You cannot lock it down. You can on Apple. That's a big advantage. And Apple got rid of all the tracking, all the cookies and stuff. They delete you can get rid of them. Now, not so on a Android. So what's more decentralized than Android? I just told you what's the decentralized. You're getting your ass tracked everywhere you go. Last time I checked, the FBI can't audit Android for phone and text messages. Here's the big dirty secret. They don't come from your device. They come from your provider, AT&T, Verizon. That's where they go and subpoena them. And that's how they get your text records. They don't have them on your phone. I didn't even raise that argument, but I said Android's decentralized. Oh boy, he says all I'm saying is below. Facts matter. Would never happen with Android. Game, set, match. FBI takes Apple to court. FBI responded by successfully applying the United States Magistrate Judge Sherry Pym to issue a court order mandating Apple to create and provide the requested software. Oh, I can play that game all day long. Judge orders Google to turn over data to FBI. US asks Google to unlock phones 9 times since 2012. Apple slams Android as a massive tracking device, an internal revealed Google suit. And they go into exactly how they track you and exactly how they do it. So there's your decentralization. You're not tracked on an Apple device. The Apple Safari internal browser, it doesn't track you either. So if you want to be tracked, get a centralized Android phone. Any thoughts on that, Jeff?
Roland saying my sister loves Android and a gamer, likes Cheetos and Red Bull. I don't do any of those things. It just
That's pretty funny.
I just think it's funny. So here's a serious question that kind of came out, and it's going in this kind of a same direction. But Laurel is asking, what are our thoughts on Zoom's KYC feature? So Zoom has now rolled out Know Your Customer feature, and it's going to be a KYC AML.
Well, it's the way I see it. I still think it's voluntary. I don't think I at least I'm not sure 100% on that, but I thought it was voluntary because they just offered free KYC where you can get KYC'd on the Zoom platform. But I'm gonna have to look into that. I'm gonna have to ask Weetza that question, is if it's still voluntary. So that needs to be.
But overall, if it's not, I mean, what are your thoughts in moving in that direction?
Well, I mean, look, it's normal sort of compliance, right? I mean, this is unfortunately, this is coming down to governments and anti-money laundering, AML, KYC, know your customer. I'll be able to provide stuff. So if something does hit the fan, the government can step in, and it's just I mean, it all comes down to one thing. It's called paying your taxes. So that's what they really want to know. I mean, there's illicit activity. It's very low, but I think that any platform where you're going to be on-off ramping, like for example, Zoom just adopted this. The Uphold, I forget what their product is called, but for getting on and off ramps, I know that there are a number of people out there using it. This is the main reason. Like, did you pay your taxes? Your taxes paid?
Yep, I agree.
Apple gave up all the rights a year ago. Thanks, Android user.
Yeah, because they're all central. There's nothing you can do once it's court ordered and it goes into an investigation.
Correct.
The central company have to give it up, which is why we're also talking about if you're using a credit card, government can't access. It goes back to our earlier story. They can't access those records unless it's court ordered, and it's going to be the same thing. And you mentioned with your providers, the providers will track a lot. The phones can track a lot, and so there's it's a big debate. I think that you give up certain freedom in order to use the technology. It's a matter of how far do you want to go. Like up in Canada, government stepped in, shut people's bank accounts down, shut down their credit card usage. That's scary. That's to a level that goes beyond, that steps into, deep into a communist state where they can control and shut you down financially, which if you move to a digital currency, they could do with a flick of a switch versus, having to, still today, I don't know exactly how Canada was able to do that to the truckers and shut them down as they did, which is really terrifying.
They commanded the banks, but you want to see,
right?
Listen, it's all collusion, Jeff. So look at this right here. This is something that I wanted to put up here, but look at this here real quick. So Google Witness accidentally blurts out that Apple gets 36% cut of their Safari deal. So Safari has, if you use Safari and your default search engine is Google, there's a massive amount of money on the table here. So this was in a suit where it actually got blurted out there. But if you look right here, according to Blue, let's see, I'm trying to see where this is. John Smithsonian visibly cringed when Murphy revealed the confidential information. It's supposed to be confidential between two parties, an NDA on that, which Google initially claimed needed to be kept secret because otherwise it would unreasonably undermine Google's competitive standing in relation to both competitors. look, this stuff between companies needs to be, kept secret because it just taints a lot of stuff, and that's up to them. It's two private corporations have an agreement that an NDA's under it for the Department of Justice, which made Google Apple deal the center of its case, alleging that Google maintains an illegal monopoly over search. The detail confirms how valuable default placements on iPhones are to the search leader. And I'm trying to look for the dollar amount here, but it's pretty significant.
Yeah.
Here it is right here.
Yeah.
Google's advertising revenue is $224 billion in 2022, and based on that, Engadget estimated that Apple likely has paid in tens of billions of dollars for Google's default searcher. That's crazy talk right there, Jeff.
It's insane.
Right? So tens of billions of dollars because you opened up your Safari browser on your iPhone and you did a search. The default is set to Google. You can go and change it. You can change it if you want, DuckDuckGo, whatever. I mean, they're all the same to me. There's some decentralized ones which you can't search, but tens of billions of dollars. Previously, sources told the New York Times that Google paid Apple approximately $18 billion in 2021 for the deal, but the exact amount for the revenue sharing was unknown until Monday. The DOJ's trial also recently revealed that Google paid $26 billion in total for default contracts. So it's worth a lot of money. It's so funny. It's like Google, the original was Sergey, I think one of them sat on the board of Apple, said they would sit on the board for Apple, but they would never create a phone until a year later, 2 years later, when they saw like, oh, the smartphone shit's taken off. Let's create an inferior, shitty product that people can customize and make it look like Microsoft Paint. Okay, great, let's do it. So then they, Jeff's cringing over there, but I'm sorry, Babs, just driving the point home. So then what happens? So then you get this this product that came out of, no, we're never going to create a phone, and they got kicked off the Apple board, to in the back room, they got a nice tight little partnership that looks like tens of billions of dollars, and they actually get 36% cut of the Safari deal, which is pretty damn strong because everybody could bitch. All the devs bitched about Google and Apple taking 30% from the Google Play and the Apple store, and meanwhile they're getting 36% with Google. Pretty good negotiations, but it's all the same, Jeff. It all defaults.
They're all there on the taking advantage
on the spectrum. On the spectrum means something different today, doesn't it, Jeff?
Yep.
So anyway, that's all we have. I thought we'd go into have a little bit of fun with that. Honestly, it comes down to preference. Look, if you like iOS, cool. If you like Android, cool. I mean, you get to choose what you want. There's not much choice. There's only two major operating systems. Elon Musk keeps floating this thing of he's going to have a decentralized phone. I don't know. I don't see it happening. But again, and will it have the power behind it that Google can put into their phones and make and develop, right, the operating system, or Apple can develop the operating system? It's a tough nut to crack. One of the things in that
they use Google.
Somebody has pointed out and says, "Where's the choice for Nokia?" I'm like, Nokia. I'm like, what? I mean, like, you might as well start talking about BlackBerry.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's not. Yeah, it wasn't really Nokia. It's BlackBerry. BlackBerry. They were interesting when they first launched, and they kind of went by the wayside. They couldn't compete in their space. They stayed too email centric. That was their platform. It was all about the keyboard and the email and all of that. I still, till today, I think I prefer my BlackBerry as far as having that physical keyboard than anything else. And it was just more comfortable typing, even though I can type pretty well now. But what I don't like on the new phones is the spell check and all the different things that they, the predictive, and it changes what you write. And, and it's extremely difficult.
You can turn it off.
To me is problematic.
You can turn it off. You can customize it. You can
the Palm. Remember the Palm 3 and the Palm 5?
See, like, I didn't like, to me, BlackBerry was a complete and utter I hated BlackBerry. God, I hated BlackBerry. But I liked my Palm. My Palm had a physical keyboard, but I'm so good at typing at, the virtual keyboard. I never missed I never missed that. I didn't. I mean, it was comfortable, but the bumpiness of it and typing a lot got to mess up your thumbs a little bit. Where just on a screen, it's so much better. And this is where. And let's remember the man that dug the well. His name was Steve Jobs, and Steve Jobs was a genius because he said you don't need a stylus. Back then, everything was a stylus. Oh, man, take my stylus. I lost my stylus. Right. What do I do? He said, "Here's your stylus. It's called your finger. Stick it up your ass." Android users. He didn't say that part. I just made that up. But
that was pre-Android.
Right, but I'm just saying the whole point of it is like he's the guy that got everyone
Windows.
off physical device of actually using a stylus, because back then you did have to use a stylus. It wasn't a touch screen like we know today. And now you wouldn't think of having a stylus today. You've got Apple Pen and you've got all these other touch points for both, the Apple, computers, and the iPads, the tablets. You're accustomed to using something different. But again, it doesn't rely on that solely. So I think that was a good one. But that's all we have, Jeff.
Yeah. And I like the Samsung ecosystem. So there you go.
Whatever you like, man.
Like Hydroponics Allen. It's good. I don't have a Samsung computer, but I prefer my Samsung ecosystem. Not so much Samsung. If they had a better phone, the phone's good for me. They make good quality cameras, good quality user experience.
Ain't better than this.
Have any issue.
It ain't better than that.
Yeah, I don't know. They make movies with iPhones. I don't know if you can make a movie with a Samsung.
They shot the they did it behind the scenes, which was really cool to watch. They had this giant rig and a tiny little phone on it, and they had this giant rig. They're moving around. They had it on a jib arm and all this stuff. I'm like, to see the tiny little camera on it, but they shot all of the last update, that Apple did was all done on an iPhone. So I mean, it is remarkable to see, and that's where they've sort of led. They've led more on the, like you said, like I'm more on the creative side of doing things, where creatives, you're shooting stuff. Now you got to have everything else, the lighting, the right, gimbal or a jib arms, or that it can adapt to it. So it does take a little bit of that. It's not just that simple, but again, look, it comes down to what you feel comfortable using. And if you like, Android, then stay with Android. It's a chocolate versus vanilla. I like them both, but when it comes to ice cream,
chocolate
chocolate chip good too, but chocolate chip. I even like ice cream. I like vanilla ice cream with chocolate chip too. So it's like, but I actually like them both. But I tend to prefer vanilla and ice cream, but I like chocolate a lot. So it just comes down to personal preference. What suits you better? There's Dirk Evander Gush. I don't know even how to pronounce that. Sorry, Dirk. I'll just call you Dirk. How's that? What's going on? Chip, you're still a great guy, even though you have an iPhone. Ha ha ha. Just bust your chops. Listen, Alan, that's fine.
That's what I keep telling him, Alan.
That's here. We like to have a laugh at it. And listen, feel free. I mean, I know you're heavily steeped in that ecosystem. That's great. Honestly, I probably could live without an iPhone. I could not live without a Mac. If I had to choose, I would be willing to give up my iPhone before I'd really willing to give up my Mac, because when I'm on a PC, I want to rip both eyes out of my sockets and I want to smash them on the screen. That's how frustrating an experience it is. My brother, when he finally moved over to the Mac, the Apple, it took him a long time. He goes, I don't know. He goes, I plugged it in and everything worked. And, I plugged my printer and it just started printing. I didn't go to this site and download this driver and update this driver. And again, my wife, who is on a PC for her work, my God, I had so much trouble with downloading the right driver. It was the right driver that would work and sync with this piece of software. You plug it in an Apple and it just works. What was the Crypto Eddies thing there?
She just said, whoops. We both did it. Enjoyed very much.
I had some of her tweets queued up too, and we didn't get to them because, well, Jeff, we talk too much. What are you going to talk about? We do talk too much. Talk too long and too much about topics. But I did have, by the way, it's crushing it with the research and projects and what's going on in the ecosystem. And one of the main leaders. I got into another, call it a spat, but I would call it somewhat of a disagreement. I'm in every one of these Twitter spaces I roll into. I feel like I'm like the only one leading the charge. Talk about central bank digital currencies, and everyone's like, "Oh no, it's the banks can do that now," and it's like we should embrace it, and it's going to be great. I'm like, no, I'm not jumping on your train. I'm not into any of that stuff, right? But even when I started talking about the builders, then they started going off in Crypto Eddy, going like, "Oh, you're like with Crypto Eddy, the builders, right?" I'm like, dude, Ripple isn't getting it done solo. If the ecosystem doesn't expand, no value is going to increase. And they're like, no, it's all about Ripple. Ripple does everything. And Ripple, they do cross-border payments. That's it. That's their use case right now. Okay. That's, and it's debatable to see how many people have jumped on. There's been a resistance here in the US, even after it was settled that XRP is not a security. But where the real growth is in Asia, right? It's not happening here. And I'm thinking, I almost don't even want to go into these X spaces anymore, because like, I'm like the solo voice. I'm like the one voice. Everyone, the crowd's over here, and then I'm over here. So I don't know how that works, but I'll leave my own spaces.
As we're wrapping here, Barbie Taylor said, my birthday is Wednesday. You can now call me Medicare Barbie.
No, we're not going to do
I
that.
know time flies. We're not gonna-
That's not going to happen. We're just going to call you Barbie Taylor. How about that? Well, happy birthday to you. We'll be the first ones to wish you a happy birthday. Hopefully,
That's
we're
right.
first. As
Sure, we're
we are first, and of course, it was Alex Yeat's birthday yesterday. So Alex, and we also had, who else's birthday was it? Who else did I miss? There's somebody else we didn't hear. No, lower
Yeah.
level. Lower
Yeah,
level.
lower level. We
And he's
be a
and
whole
look, we're giving a
birthday
birthday shout out, even though he's an Android user. So there you go.
there you go. Android number 1.
There you have it. It's all good, man. It's all good. Happy birthday, XRP.
Happy birthday.
And AR, I like that.
There you go. And lower level also brought up that Samsung makes great phones, refrigerators, not so much, which is true. But they also make good split AC units, which are awesome.
They
the
do.
split
You know what,
AC,
Jeff? I will
really good. And they make cars too, if you didn't know that.
never give up my Samsung refrigerator. I love my Samsung refrigerator. I'll just go on the record right now. It is the greatest refrigerator I've ever owned. Knock on wood. This is wood desk. It is absolutely phenomenal. Like the design, everything of it. I'm really, really happy with it. So, Samsung makes good quality stuff. Did they make cars, Jeff? Did you say?
They do, or at least they did a number of years ago. That when you go not anywhere else in the world that I've seen them other than in South Korea.
But look
you
at
see
Sony.
the
Look how
Samsung
Sony used to
driving
be
down the
leader.
road.
Sony was a leader and they lost it. So Samsung pretty much took over. So if I have a choice, yeah, I can go buy a Sony TV. You can still buy them, but would I choose Samsung for that? I choose Samsung all day long. They're better. And again, that Sony price tag is that higher sort of like, and again, Sony was the Betamax. Sony was so they were always like innovators and leaders until they weren't. So you got to keep up with it. And just like Ripple, they lost a lot of steam with this lawsuit. But to be so short-sighted to say that, well, let's just see what Ripple does, and Ripple does this, and Ripple goes public. I don't care, Jeff. I don't give a rat's behind if they go public. I'm not interested in their stock. I'm interested in use cases for the digital assets and solving problems. That's what interests me. I don't care about a centralized company and what they do. And by the way, a little too woke for me, especially them getting in there in collusion with governments with the CBDC token. We can't get straight answers of what kind of programmability is built in there. I've asked all over Twitter, can't get it. I asked in this X space, nobody knows. So I'd like to know more details on that. If it's a straight, I like what Palau's done because obviously they use the US dollar. I like that sort of a digitalization. I like the tokenization of that, but not a central bank digital currency. We don't need the programmability in there. I'm fine with tokenizing whatever fiat currency you have. But again, we're just going to print. Now we can press a button and there's 100 billion, there's a trillion, there's 2 trillion. I don't know. Hardly seems we maybe tokenizing where we're offsetting, but not printing. So I don't think that'll happen. I just don't think so.
We're going to tokenize Apple. So here you go. Corey said, jump from Android to Apple at 50 years old. Quite a learning curve. When do I get my work?
Mercedes. Do I get my Mercedes? Remember, you drive a Mercedes.
Yeah.
That was with Mercedes. Dude, I don't understand the learning curve thing of it, because like the learning curve, the PC is so freaking complicated. Those ads they had back in the year circa 2000 with Jeff Goldblum, where he said PC perpetually complicated. That's the best one that sticks for me. It is absolutely like, I don't know, and I had to explain this to my brother. It's like you have to unlearn the complicated nature of it. It's simple. It makes sense. Like you can figure it out. But if you've been programmed to be complicated and click and do this and then you're going to have a rough time with simplicity.
Because everything is drilled down in settings. If you go to the PC, there's always a drill down in the settings. Lots and lots of settings.
I mean, Apple has its settings too. I think that works a little bit better. I mean, there was a time when I was developing, websites back in the day, and I used the PC for the HTML code, and I used a Mac for the design piece of it. So I had 2 of them. I had a switcher, I had screen switcher, KVM. They used to call it back in the day, keyboard and mouse switcher, and keyboard, video, and mouse. So I'd click it, and both my big screens would power over to the PC. The funny thing is a lot hasn't changed. I am the IT guy in our house. So my wife has an issue. I go on the PC and sort of figure it out. I type it, or I call Jeff is what I usually do. I say, Jeff, I do this. What the hell? I'm so pissed off. He's just like, oh, it's simple. You just click this, do that, boop, 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 and I'm like, okay, that was simple. Now that you know, when you know,
when you know.
So yeah, I called Jeff. He's my backup IT guy. He's like, "Hey Jeff, how does this work again?" So,
Nothing's intuitive. Let's put it that way.
so that's what we have there. That's what we have, guys. There we go. There we go. Big on no CBDC. There you go. Lower level. We can agree on that.
Big.
Of course, I kid a lot about and right there.
Oh, put that one up first. Yeah.
Payments are less part of the business. Correct. That was something that was revealed. And if you guys didn't see that, that was that Gupta that put that out there? I don't know. I remember you seeing that little clip that you said that payments is becoming less and less of the ecosystem. Everyone's still on 2018 train. 2018, we're still, it's like, come on, man, you got to update it. So I'd be happy. I didn't get rid of that.
You didn't.
Known as a promoter of builders. Absolutely. I'm lockstep with that. So there's two voices in the space. There's actually a lot more voices around there, but some people are just living in the past. They can't let it go. They are holding on to things from 2017, 2018, and the narratives have changed, and innovation has changed as well. So thank you for being a stalwart on that. Really appreciate that, Crypto Eddie.
Promoter of the builders in the space. That's key. It's going to be constant development, and some of the people building in the space are going to disappear. Just how it is. People come and go, companies come and go. Technology is going to come and go as it advances, and things will be different a year from now than they are this year. 10 years from now will be drastically different. And that's why we talk about Flare, even, as it introduced in the beginning, they had a rough start with their airdrops and their songbirds and all that stuff. But we're talking about now, they're on for the right direction.
You and I differ on that opinion, Jeff. They didn't have a rough start. It's an evolution of anything that comes out. They leverage the XRP community.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They had a rough start with the XRP community.
Was it the best run? Sort of.
It was not.
It was not. But I think the technology that they put forward. I remember doing a video on this like 3 or 4 years, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, when I first heard of Flare, and I said, "This, I don't know, but this company is feeling like a game changer in the space." They have big, bold agenda. And again, you put something big and bold out there, there's going to be stumbles along the way. But again, this F assets coming out, the layer cake, this is massive. And I think once this infrastructure gets built, it's going to be a massive game changer. I haven't differed on that. The exchanges never agreed to put out Songbird. So when they said they want to do a test net, that created a lot of problems in the community.
That was a rough start. That was bad.
Yeah. And
they should have known that. They shouldn't have done it. It was good to test net, but you and I are pretty much in sync on everything with Flare. We talked about that early on. We both thought it was a great platform, and it had a lot of great, potential into the future. But they shouldn't have done the airdrop. That was a mistake.
Yeah, well, now we've got the airdrop with Evers, and you guys, that seems complicated to me. I haven't really sat down and unpacked it, but I think you have only a short period of time to register. Problem with that is, like, if you've got multiple wallets and everything else, there's some bridging you have to do, and it sounds incredibly complicated only because it's a side chain, and I don't know. I mean, I don't even know if I'm that excited about it to do it. I mean, and the fact that like the hard work of actually setting it up properly to receive the airdrop, to do the registration, all that stuff. So
it's a lot. What, Crypto Eddie doesn't have a blue wrench in our platform? How is that possible?
How is that possible? Let's go do that now, Jeff.
Hard to even monitor it.
It's hard to fathom here.
I'm surprised that that's not the case. I'm really shocked.
With Enosys, Flare Finance, and of course she is. I mean, we rely so heavily on her amazing research here because you and I have become increasingly busy with side projects and, just our day-to-day we got going on and families and all that stuff. I wish I had more time to devote, but luckily there's expert, information, researching and stuff where I can go to and count on Crypto Eddie for doing the massive amount of amazing research.
Liam B, so what are you doing, guys? I don't know what we're doing. It's a good question. What are we doing? We're still streaming an hour 38 into this thing.
I've been trying to get out of here for like, oh my God, this is a long one.
That's what Leon is saying. What are you doing? You guys are supposed to cut off on the hour. And now everyone's stumbling in. That's what happens. We could stream Chip for like 3 hours and people just kind of stumble out like DNI.
We do have to get going. I've got to get going, but I appreciate all of you everybody that joined today. So that's all we have. Did you hook up CryptoEddie with a wrench yet, Jeff?
No, she said she didn't want it.
Doesn't matter. We're giving it to her anyway. I don't want it. Doesn't matter. It's gonna be forced upon you. It's
want it. I don't even remember how to get to it. That's a problem.
It's like we can be dictators here to force it.
I gotta find it, figure it out.
Taylor, I couldn't figure out how to get my Decent wallet address or my Ledger Blue address registered. Don't worry, don't worry, Barbie. I haven't spent the time to unpack it. I got some things to do this weekend, but I hope that I will get to it. Look at this. 2Dub finally woke up and said, "Hey, I never get to catch the show." And the only reason you're catching it is because we're like 40 minutes long here, Jeff. We almost did 2 shows here back to back. But anyway, it was a real fun one. That's all I have, guys. Thank you again for joining. And what am I drinking today? You guessed it. I'm drinking Obsidian Bold Badass Yeti coffee. Go to Badass Yetis, BadassYetiCoffee.com. You can go ahead and order yourself a bag. A lot of repeat business on the reordering there. And of course, if you own multiple Yetis, you get better discounts. That is the utility we have right now. Of course, we are working on some utility, but might take some time, probably Q1 of next year. So that's what we have. And that's it, guys. I'm out of here. Jeff, anything? I'm about ready to roll us out.
No, let's get out of here. Well, one last thing. We'll check you guys out tomorrow night, Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, over on, you guessed it, Rumble. Join us on Rumble if you haven't joined us already on Rumble and you are not over there and you need to follow us on Rumble, then that's very easy to do because you can just come and check us out. You got to follow us over here. It's easy to find us on Rumble. So if you just follow this little link that I'm sending you right now, rumble.com. I don't know if we need that C or not, but it's on the chain over on Rumble. Check that link out. You can get over there and you can just hit follow and then you hit the little bell notifier. You get notified when we go live over on Rumble. It was great today because we had a lot of people here on YouTube with us, and then we have a decent crowd forming over on Rumble as well. We have people moving from watching. They kind of go back and forth between YouTube and Rumble. But tomorrow night, Sunday, 8 p.m. over on Rumble, exclusive. Although we do simultaneous broadcast over onto Twitter, but we get to talk a lot more and we'll go more in depth into some of the geopolitics. We can really dig into certain things that we don't talk about so much here on YouTube, and we try to stay more crypto centric on YouTube on Saturday morning. So, and Crypto Eddie is a wrench, has the wrench. Look at that.
There you go.
Wrench. You got the wrench.
Over on Rumble says Crypto Eddie, she needs a Rumble channel. There you go. See, need a Rumble channel. So we'll get that.
Rumble.
And again, most of that, the 2 shows we do over there, just because we've got a lot coming up, and because this is awesome. Everything on YouTube is very focused around digital assets and some geopolitics, where the Rumble show is really focused around 97%. Or maybe 90% geopolitics, and then we get into maybe 5. But it is fun that we have a good time. And the good thing about that is a free speech platform, and we can say anything we want. And I mean, say anything without any fear. We got to remember we're over here. Be careful, man. Be careful because, Big Brother's listening over here. So that's how it works. Anyway, that's it, guys. See you guys on the next one. Chip and Jeff. See you guys.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.